I wanted to welcome everybody to one of our virtual town halls, specifically the one about Black mothers, their fears, their prayers. It was a follow-up to our town hall from our Black fathers, their fears, their realities, which was an absolute hit. Many people inboxed us, many people asked, will you be doing one for mothers? Primarily because we understand that there is a need, there is a difference in how mothers interact with their young people. There's a need in how mothers interact with their daughters, and there definitely is a difference in how mothers interact with their sons. So tonight, I have the privilege of hanging out with some of the women whom I love, I respect, I look up to. Sometimes I bounce ideas off of them. They're the ones who like, hey, I'm gonna need you to get it together and get back on the road and let's do this. You're needed out here. But I thought this conversation was really a town hall. It's a sit down. We're gonna have a real good time as women. But more importantly, I wanted to include their daughters. I wanted to have young people have a safe space where they can hear the experiences of their moms. They too can talk about their personal experiences, about being a young Black woman in America at this very moment. Part of what we do at U-Turn is an at-risk youth consulting firm, and primarily what we do, we're an education and training firm that unmasks the backstories that contribute to youth and gun violence in the community. And we get the privilege and the opportunity to train many of the institutions that we're asking for social justice and social equity. But part of the conversation that we were having offline is we can train as many people as we want, but if the family unit is broken, all of it is for naught. So our mission is, while we're out there trying to train educators and law enforcement and the health industry about better ways and equitable ways to deal with our young Black and brown communities, we also need to have some real tough talk amongst family. So let me introduce some of my favorite people. I want to start with my co-host for this evening, Ms. Melanie Burke. I call her my diva sister. Melanie and I share so much in common. It's funny because we're the only ones on here tonight as well that only has a son. So Melanie she'll co-moderate with me this tough conversation. Next, I want to introduce Susan and Kellyanne, who will also be joining us and adding their 2 cents in. Nikki and Madison, and then Martina and Maya. I want you guys to know that this is completely Team U-Turn. These are conversations that we have on a regular. So ladies, welcome. Thank you for agreeing to do this. I know some young people ain't want to be on here, but you know, you're on here now, and we promise to our viewers, we plan on making this as lighthearted, as easy as possible. So Mel, welcome, my dear.
Thank you. Pleasure. Thank you for having me on. This is my sister in crime, good crime, if there's such a thing. And I am truly honored and blessed to be by her side and to also be here with these beautiful mothers and daughters. You guys are absolutely beautiful. Oh my goodness. You know, the daughters, you should wake up in the morning, look at that beautiful skin tone and say, God, you kissed me with this beauty. Hello. So yes, I am so happy that we're going to have this conversation and so that we can help to heal, because that's what mothers do. You know, we tend to heal. You know, when your child is sick, you're the first to try and figure out, you know, how can I make them well? And so as mothers, we are the ones that can heal this nation. You know, I've seen in Africa, when mothers come together or women come together, they can change the whole village, you know, just by sticking together. And this is one of the things that I often say to other Black women: let's stick together and encourage each other and love each other and compliment each other, you know? And so I'm just really happy to be among all of you beautiful people, and I can't wait to have a conversation.
So we're going to dive right into it. And then each of you guys will get a chance with your first question. You know what? I'm going to be nice. Let me do it differently. Sue, introduce yourself a little bit.
Okay, yeah, set me up. Okay, hi. My name is Susan Theodore. I am a mother of 3 amazing daughters, different age ranges, from soon to be 30, soon to be 20, and 18. So, yeah. Do you want my profession as well, or just?
Tell us what you do. And the reason I'm asking is because I want for people to know there was some conversation when we were putting this together. People didn't want it to seem like we were, because there weren't any men in the picture, that these were single moms, as if something was. And I said, the mere fact that we have to have this conversation makes it unfair. So I want us to be as open, as honest as we can, because when men come on things by themselves, nobody's concerned whether they single moms, single dads, or they married. Don't nobody ask all that. So why we got to go through all that? But that's another conversation. Go ahead.
Okay, so I am married. I have been in transportation and logistics for, my God, since I lived in New York. I'm a native New Yorker, born and raised. Haitian descent. My mom and my dad are from Haiti. So born American, raised with all the Haitian culture, everything Haitian. That was me, born. And then of course like I said, transportation logistics. I've always been in hospitality, customer service. Then I moved to Florida, and then it's the same thing. So of course have been in a industry that is not a lot of women of color. For what I do, I'm usually that one. If it's not that one, it's a few. So it's
Okay.
it's been well, I guess we're going to get to that. We're just in the introduction mode. So I've done transportation. I deal with large amounts of people. So I'm really in the corporate world. The corporate world is my world. So I travel for a living. I pretty much live on a plane and in hotels. But because of zero COVID-19, I am grounded.
Okay. Well, those are all important things that we need to understand. Kellyanne?
My name is Kelly Cyan.
Kelly Cyan. My bad, Kelly Cyan.
It's okay. I don't know.
All right. Well, you think about that. We're going to come right back. Nikki, tell us a little bit about yourself before we dive into this conversation.
Well, my name is Nikki. I'm a mother of two, a boy and a girl. Yet I do have plenty of other kids that I've taken under my wing as my own. Kelly being one, my goddaughter. And I live in a semi-corporate world. I'm in transportation logistics, just like Susan. A certain air to that. But,
Okay, that's good to know. Madison?
My name is Madison. I'm 16 years old and I go to North Miami Beach Senior High School. I'm a junior now. And yeah, that's it.
Thank you. Ms. Martine.
Hi, everyone. My name is Martine Donaldson. And like a lot of the women here, I'm also in the corporate world. I deal with human resources. I've been in HR for a number of years now, and it's basically overseeing HR, recruiting, payroll, stock plans, and so on and so forth. Very happy to be here. I have been with my husband for 23 years. I think we met when we were just babies. And I've been married for 18 years. And again, very glad that Cheryl invited us to join this panel and have this really great conversation.
Awesome.
Thank you. And we know Maya's shy. Maya. Look at her. I don't know how we're going to get Maya to engage. She can't even tell me her name. So let's move on. What I want to dive into the conversation with is, let me see, and any mom could take this. So these are difficult times right now, right? We're watching a lot of stuff happen on TV, especially around the George Floyd. We see this movement. It's not even a moment. It's really a movement with a lot of momentum. So let me ask you guys this. How have your conversations differ, particularly Nikki and Martine, who have both a daughter and a son? Has there been a difference in how you've addressed this conversation? And if so, share that with us. I know we were already having this conversation, so I'm gonna let Martine get started, then Nikki, you can take that one over afterwards.
For me, I want to say that it really even began with even before George Floyd. I have noticed in myself how different the conversations have been with the kids. From even when I will say this, when my son was very young until through this date, I have never purchased a toy gun for him, ever. He's never had a toy gun. When he wears hoodies, and this may be, things that happen on my end. If he wears a hoodie, I said, sweetie, can we not put the hoodie over your head? And then it's so some of those things. And he said, why, Mom? And I said, well, sometimes people have a misinterpretation when they see you, even though you're young, but you're a Black boy, that somehow if you have a hoodie on, it can mean something completely different. Mm-hmm. So when George Floyd happen. And it was interesting because, you know, it was all over the news and the kids were watching it. And my son, I remember him saying, Mom, I don't even understand. Why can't everybody just get along? Why did this have to happen? And it's explaining to him that, sweetie, unfortunately, there are people in this world who view us differently. And you as a boy, as a Black boy, and my son is he's very outgoing, and he's talkative, and he likes to make his point, and he likes to argue and argue in a good way. He likes to yeah, that's my future politician / lawyer. I don't know what he's gonna be, but anyway. So one of those things that I try to tell him is to say, you know, I know you're trying to make your point, and I know you already have you really do have something to say, but I want you to be careful that when you are speaking to certain people, to take back, even if you're right, even if you're correct in what you have to say, but you need to take a step back and listen to the other person and really be mindful of the situation that's happening all around you. And I've had conversations like this with my daughter, and she was very touched by the George Floyd as well. I mean, it was all over social media. She was having discussions with her friends. And for a moment, we actually had a moment. I'll share this as mother and daughter. One day when it was just so much that week that had happened. You had George Floyd, you had Ahmaud Arbery, and then you had you had Breonna Taylor, and then you had you had that woman in the park that had called you know, the police on a gentleman. It was over bird watching. But anyway, all of that was just so consuming at that moment, during that moment that we were having. We actually had a moment together, my daughter and I. We just cried. We just cried for the world. We prayed and we cried, and it felt good. It was just her and I. We had that private moment. She said, Mom, I don't understand what's happening. And I said, sweetheart, I know. And I wish there was more that I could do. This is the world that we live in. And we have to find a way to live in that world, and we have to pray. And we had that moment. So it's something that I know that a lot of mothers have had out there, and all of these things that have been happening. There's so much in social media. It's really affecting the children, and the children themselves are talking about it. They're having those discussions to say, hey, what's going on? The one thing I'll say, just to kind of taper off, is that what was refreshing to hear is when I have my non-Black friends, their kids are asking the same questions. They're saying, wait a minute, what is happening? Because all of us are friends and we love each other. Like, what is happening? What's wrong with the world? What is going on? And it's refreshing because I see this as, you know what, these are the young people and these are the children. These are our future. So if you can see so clearly when injustice is happening and demand that change, that gives me hope.
That's a very good point. Nikki, I guess Martine answered a lot of what, I know your son's a little bit older, and then Mel, we can jump right into one of your questions right afterwards. How has your conversation differed? Because I know Matthew's about to be a senior, so he understands a little bit more. There's a little bit more preparation. He's getting his first job. How has that conversation been different? Because I know Madison, we call her our Buffalo Soldier. Madison always ready to protest. She ready to go. So how have those conversations been different?
Well, my son's very quiet. However, our conversations are totally different because with Madison, I think she kind of understands more of the culture and she's for the people. With Matthew, my fears really didn't start until, what's the young kid that got, until the Trayvon Martin episode. Me, myself, I grew up in California. So I was in a diverse community, never really thought about the race thing. You know, I know we're different and things like that. However, moving here in Florida, it is a lot different than how it is in California. Although race is an issue everywhere. But I felt that I'm sending my kids to a diverse school. You know, I'm trying to be in the neighborhoods that's a little bit diverse. But then when the Trayvon Martin thing hit, I was like, oh, there are things I haven't spoken to my kids about. And especially having a Black son. We lived across the street from some young kids. One was Hispanic. The other kids were white, and they were outside playing cops and robbers and things like that. And then so when Madison was like, Mommy, you know, they're putting him as if he's in cuffs and, playing with the BB guns and things. And I like freaked out and I was like, hey, listen, I don't care what it is that I give you and, where we are, you have to understand who you are and understand that if something were to happen, your brown skin singles you out as the one on the negative end, so you really have to be careful. So I now more so than ever, he's turned 18. I'm like, you're a target. And I hate to have to think that. And he walks to work and even though it's down the street, I have to think like, oh my gosh, I hope nothing happens to him on his way back. He's very quiet. He's somewhat of an introvert and his attitude reads on his face. So if an officer were to stop him and he would be like, what you stopping me for? It's a total attitude. So I have to think about those things as well and school him constantly. With Madison, she's totally aware of all the things that are going on. And we do have a different conversation. It's more so of who you are as a Black woman. So, that's just really what it is.
Mel?
Yeah, I just want to ask the young people, and any one of you can jump in. Have either or any one of you ever been profiled? And if so, how did you deal with it? Okay.
I've been, well, not necessarily profiled, but I've experienced some type of racism when I was younger, even though it wasn't like, I don't know if she was totally aware, but it's like an example, whereas we deal with this now, like older people deal with this now. I was like playing and my mom just got my hair done. And I was like, oh, I don't like this hair do. It was like a mohawk. Like it looked like very nice. It was a mohawk. And the girl was like, oh my gosh, Madison, did you steal your hair from horses? She was like, did you get your hair from horses? And I was like, no. And then like, I went to my mom and I was like sad about it.
Wow.
Wow. Did you get your hair from horses? It's funny because
I was to get your hair, and I was like, "What? This is my hair. My mom bought it."
Well, don't feel bad, Madison. I was in an elevator. I was telling the story in a training. I was in an elevator and a young person an older couple walked up to me and said, and they wanted to touch my hair. And they said, are those all yours? And do you wake up every morning and have to do them? And how do you do them? And can I touch them? And I'm looking at these people like they don't lost their mind. But again, these are some, are those braids? And then the younger woman replies, no, mama, they're dreads. What are dreads? Are they fake? And I'm sitting here like, what is happening right now? And I want you to know how uncomfortable I felt because I'm in an elevator, so I could not leave. And for as long as they were in the elevator, my hair just seemed to have been a source of interest to them, but not in a good way. So I completely don't laugh now. I completely and totally understand. What happened, Mel?
I just want to know, Mom, when she came home and she told you that, how did you deal with that?
For me, I brush things off because I'm like, you can't worry about the opinions of others all the time. From there, it was like, I don't want weave in my hair. I don't want the braids in my hair, all those types of things,
Like, and
they just didn't understand.
No, in that position, because I was in a like predominantly white class and like in elementary, because in the gifted classes, they had like all the white kids in it. So it was just like, it was a popular thing to be white or stuff like that. So I guess I felt insecure.
Yes, that can make you feel insecure.
And to admit that and to know that.
She said something. She said it was popular to be white. What does that mean? Popular to be white.
Yeah.
It was just like they made it seem like, oh, the white kids are the smart ones, so they go to this class.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Can I share something, Melanie?
Interesting, yes.
That brought back something really emotional for me that my middle daughter Melanie went through. She went through a school of the arts. We won't call out the name of the school. I feel like it, but I won't. And my kids usually will go to Nikki more. They think that she's the more calmer one, when actually it's the other way around. So they'll kind of hide things, experiences that will happen to them in school from me, and then I'll find out later through Nikki something that happened. So I was taking her to school, and she made a comment, something, I totally forgot what the whole thing was about. Yeah, the young guy in the arts class said, okay, Melanie, I'll take care of this and you can take care of the watermelon and the fried chicken. And
What?
Drama.
I stopped in her drum, I stopped my car and I just cried. And she said, Mommy, what happened? I said, let me explain to you what those two things signify, what they mean to our ancestors and us as Black people. I'm talking about now, it's getting kind of emotional because I didn't grow up in it in the 70s. I'm a 70s baby. So now someone else is saying that to my kid who clearly she doesn't know what it means. So I was in tears. I called the school and I'm like, listen, I want a meeting ASAP. I'm leaving on a flight. At this time, I want a meeting. I want this child's parents. I want everything. You're not going to put me in a position to feel like my child is going to want to hang herself, because so many young children at that time were committing suicide because they were being judged by their peers. And I've never had that experience. I haven't had it with my first daughter, but when Melanie said it to me, I was so heartbroken. And there was a meeting and I told the young kid, I said, when you said that to Melanie, what did that mean? Did you know what you were saying? And he said, no, so-and-so said it, so I repeated it. I said, let me teach you something. If you were in a predominantly Black neighborhood, they would whoop your tail. That's first and foremost. And you shouldn't really follow what one person says because you don't know what they're saying. What you said was offensive. And do you know what that means to us as Black people? He said, no. I said, well, let me tell you what it means. And I broke down the watermelon and the fried chicken. He said, oh my God, Miss Theodore, I'm so sorry. I didn't know that. I said, you got to be very careful because you can catch yourself a lot of heat and trouble by repeating something. I said, for example, when young children say Heil Hitler, they're saying it, but do you really know what you're saying? That's the example that I gave him. And he said, oh, I said, right. So what are you hailing Hitler? What does that mean? So I said, do me a favor, please be very careful when you come to, especially a person of color, because you might not get a very good reception like you did with me as her mother. And I was hurt to my core. I cried for days. And then second incident with the same child. She was working, I think we're working for Nikki's company at the airport, and she met some flights and she came down in tears. And I said, no, what's the matter? She didn't want to tell me. And I said, please tell me what's wrong. She said there was this white guy and this white woman, and he kind of moved past and I didn't hear him. And he said, move out of my way, you stupid N. I've never had that experience to have my child say that to me. So now, Mom, what do you say?
Right,
and
right.
I said, first thing I said was, where's he at? That's the first thing I said. Guilty, guys. I wasn't gonna, but I guilty.
Take
And then I
out the earrings off.
I didn't have no earrings on. I didn't have to snatch off anyway. But I said, where is he? And she said, he walked that way. And it took everything for me to console my daughter because I was devastated because I wasn't schooled on it. I didn't experience it. So how do I say it to the generation that my child is growing up in? I can't brush it off. It's the world that they live in. And I tell my kids this all the time regularly. People are ugly and they're not nice. And we have to try our best to live in this world. There are good people, but it's a struggle for us. Unfortunately, our skin color is like people do to us what they choose they want to do. But I tell my kids, as much as I can, I will educate them the best of my ability so they know who they are. They know that they're kings, their queens, their descendants, how powerful we really are, and we must stick together. It is hard, but it was harder for our ancestors in the past. So we have to continue to try to find a way to move forward. So those are the two experiences that I've had with the same child that rocked me to my core, where I had to be faced with something that had to do with racism. And I don't have any sons, but
that's a good one.
Yeah,
that's a good one. My follow-up was actually going to be, can you ladies share some of these experiences? Because I'm always saying that the best teacher is an experience, right? And oftentimes as mom and adult, we like to shelter our kids from some of our reality, either it be because of shame or, we don't feel like, they're old enough to understand. So I think, Sue, you led me exactly where I was going to go. And I'll start with Mel, because the world that Mel dominates. And Mel, can you remember any one situation, and I'd love for each of the moms to kind of be able to share this a little, any one situation that rocked you to the core and reminded you, oh, this is happening because I'm Black?
Oh, absolutely. I worked at the arena for many years, and I was the executive producer there for events. And the events were they were great. However, this one white lady will always take credit. When she goes to the media, she told them that she was the one that produced these shows and would always take credit for what I had done. So, you know me, I go to praying. I was like, okay, God, that's, I didn't say anything. And I went to pray, and I also took it as a compliment too. It was a curse, but a compliment, because I was like, okay, it was that good that you wanted to own what I was doing. And so my dad had gotten sick, and I left, and I was told that I was given at the time the Andrew Award for the shows. And then I was also given the key to the county for the awards, for the show. And when I was receiving those things, she was not on stage with me. It was Melanie Burke receiving those awards and not her. So, I always say God has a sense of humor. He will always, always make sure that the last will be the first, So I just want to say to the young girls, this is not going to be the last things that you come across or that you experience, but it's how you deal with them, And sometimes it's not about fighting right then. It's about taking a step back, live to fight another day. And that is more powerful than, sometimes don't even let them see you sweat. You know what I'm saying? Don't even let them see you sweat. Sometimes you just smile and move it along, and you know that God is going to take care of that. But yes, I've had many, actually. I've been called the N-word, and I wanted to fight that time. Woo-wee. I was in Davie, was doing a voiceover, and I was outside, and this man drove by in his little red truck and said, N-word, what you doing that stuff? I was like, what? And somebody just came and snatched me from the back. Hey, girl, get inside the radio station. I was like, what? He called. You can't do that up here. I'm like, oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
That was a learning experience for me. I was like, what? Yeah.
Wow.
So yeah, I've experienced it, and I've experienced it time and time again.
Yes, ma'am. Martine, in your specific realm, anything you can think of that you can share with these young ladies that have resonated with you and again reminded you that either one, you're a Black woman, or two, you're a Black Haitian woman.
Yeah.
Either or.
And yes, and that's one of the things that, I've told my children, is that in everything that I do, and especially in the corporate world, I'm always cognizant of that. And when you see African-American women, you see a Black woman in a certain position, know that that person has had to work so much harder. And I always tell them that, I'm Black, I'm a woman, and I'm Haitian. And I'm extremely cognizant, and I'm extremely cognizant of that. I'm very self-aware. And it's interesting when I'm having conversations, and I deal with a lot of different vendors and companies that want to do business with us. And oftentimes we'll have a lot of conversations over the phone, not necessarily through WebEx or anything, so they don't know what I look like. And so they know my position based on my title. But then when they come into the office and they actually meet me, I always get the, oh, okay. So, and it's and I can always tell, right? It's like, yeah, and it's the unspoken thing that we say. It's like, yes, I'm Black.
Yeah.
I know you didn't know possibly, but yes, I'm Black. So
I've gotten that one too.
It's that piece of it. But one thing that I wanted to go back to is something that Madison said, which really kind of struck a chord with me, because I kind of went through that as well with my daughter. We as mothers, and Shirley, we're talking about that, we do want to keep our children as sheltered as we possibly can. It's something that I had to learn, and now I'm more mindful of it, and I'm more aware of it. We want our children to go to the best school, right? But what people say sometimes are the best schools may not necessarily be the best school for our children.
Yes.
I went the route of, I'm going to send my child to a specific school, and I'm not going to say the name of the school or anything like that. Well, the school I can tell you there were 5 Black children in the school, in the entire
wow.
school. There were
Wow.
5. I knew who they were. She was one of them. I could count them. I could say, oh, that's so and so, that's so and so, that's
5 including you.
5, and yes, 5 including you. You're right, 5 including you. And at the time, again, it was known. I was told that this was a really great school. It was really wonderful. So I'm thinking, okay, I want the best school for my child. But her experience there, and the reason why it caught me is because of what Madison said. Madison said it was popular to be white. She didn't see too many people who looked like her. And for the
Exactly.
first time, I noticed that she started having some self-esteem issues, thinking, oh, wait a minute, my hair. That was the first time she started complaining about her hair. And I said, what are you talking about? You're beautiful. What are you talking about? So from that experience, I had said, you know what? We're not doing that anymore. And I eventually switched her to a school that's more diverse. And she was like, whoa, wait a minute, what's going on? All of a sudden, she's feeling beautiful. She's feeling confident. It is so important for our children. And I think, and again, every child can work through it, and every child is different. But I think it's really important for, especially the young ladies, they need to be able to see people who look like them and know that they are beautiful. Because in any culture, I think if you go somewhere and every day, 24 hours, the bulk of your day, you don't see people who look like you start to think, well, what's going on? Am I really different? Am I really that different? So that was a lesson for me. And I share that with people, how we have to be careful when we're saying, oh, I'm going to send that my child to this school. Look at, yes, there are many great schools, but look at the diversity in that school. Because you know what, that's what makes the school great too, the diversity. Having just the majority of the school being just from one population, and granted, depending on where you're located, it can happen. But diversity adds to that greatness, because it allows the students to see what the world actually looks like. Because the world doesn't look like what you have in your every little day bubble there. That's not the world. So it's both important for all cultures and all races to be able to have that daily interaction with as diverse group of a people as they possibly can. So Madison, I totally get it. We were totally there. So it just really struck me as a chord, because you said that was what was popular. And I remember feeling, oh, she's feeling this way because she's Black. And there's not a lot of kids who look like her in the school.
Thank you. Very, very well said. Nikki, and then Mel, I'm gonna pass it on to you for a question.
Oh,
Nikki?
Shirley, I'm
No,
sorry.
no,
You know
no,
how shy Maya is. I think she finally had something. Go ahead, Maya.
Ooh, let me hear what Maya got to say. Go ahead, Maya. We're all ears.
At that school, there was a
Get her.
time.
They
at
have
that
to see you,
school-
Maya.
Gotta come on this side.
Okay, there was a time at that school where my mom had braided my hair into like a crown, and
Can you speak up a little?
Can hear her.
there was a time that my mom had braided my natural hair into a crown, and I wore it to school. And I was fine with it at home, but when I got to school, I didn't really like it. And I had one of my white friends take it out and comb it with, we both like messed with it a little bit and took it out completely and put it into like a regular bun. And then that's how I went with the day, because I felt better that it looked like everybody else's bun rather than
Wow.
the crown.
So
You wanted
the
to
issue,
fit in.
right. It was more about the fitting in because it was popular to be white. Thank you, Maya. Nikki.
I think as far as racism, any incidents that I've really encountered in my adult life has really been at work, because I started at my office when I was young. And as I mentioned, I was one of the youngest and Black people there, Black person there. So when some of the males found out that I was moving up and soon to become their supervisor or their boss, there was a little disrespect given. One, he called me a B because he knew I just don't play. And after so many times, I said, you have one more time to call me that. because it's going to really be a problem. Oh, I was just playing with you. Don't play with me like that. And another one, he had an issue because, my previous manager or my predecessor who I took over from, she kind of favored him and just gave him everything. And he came telling me that he didn't have to listen to me. And so I had to let it be known, I'm in charge now. And you're going to do what I ask you to do, or you can't be here. And when he had gone over my head to the owner, and she said, well, she's the one who's calling the shots. This is what it is. He quit.
Oh, wow.
That's crazy. Mel, can I add something into what Nikki said when she's done? It's so amazing how each of these stories is like one of us have, matter of fact, all of us have something that's continuing on. As I said, Nikki and I are in the same industry. We're also, this is family, this business partners as well. So her and I, as Black women, we do have our own company as well, where we do a lot of logistics. I have a lot of my corporate clients that when they come to town, Nikki and I are the ones that spearhead. So we create our own little army. Someone said to one of my staff one day at the airport that, so you don't hire white people? So when that got back to me, and I said, what do you mean if we don't hire white people? So I had called Nikki in the office and said, Nikki, this is what so-and-so said. And then someone else who was white came and said, well, what do you mean she doesn't hire white people? So-and-so and so-and-so, they're white and they're working in the other terminal. I didn't have to speak for that. So it's like, they get offended when they see strong Black women pretty much running their own show, and it's successful and it's blessed and it's thriving. We are a threat. That image is a threat. When they see a group of us, hee hee ha ha, whatever, there's a fear. So it's kind of like, what is that? What are they? No, don't worry about what we're talking about. I mean, because it's like we need to grow as well as women. As business women, Nikki and I, because Nikki's more stable here, I'm the one that's always flying around like, ping, ping, ping all over the states and stuff like that. And I get to see a lot of that. Like I said, I am usually the only Black person in the 200-300 people that I work with. And one day I sat in a place that had like 280 of us, and I felt a little intimidated. I'm like, are you the only one that happened to me only once? And after that, I said, you know what your worth is and your value. That's why you're here. I'm not here because of my color. I'm here because of my strengths and what I can give to the company. So just the same way Nikki said, and when they see her and I work together, we have a lot of people that work with us that love to work with us because we're fair. We don't judge. We don't look at the color of your skin. But if we see those who do look like us that know the industry, why not give them a shot? So, people take that as a threat. And then even one young lady said to one of our staff, she says, oh, so how much is that company paying you? And the staff person asked her, why are you saying that? Because they're a Black company? And she goes, well, like how much are they possibly paying you? So of course, we've gotten our feeling just a little bit. You won't be working for this company, young lady. So you know what I mean? Nikki was like, well, she won't be working for this company. So, just love. And also that Martine had said, she said she's Black, she's a woman, she's Haitian. When I train Nikki and I staff, I tell them, don't ever let them see you with your pants down. One, you're Black, you're a woman, you're a minority. So people tend to expect to see us fail. That's the norm for them. Do not, under any circumstances, let them see you sweat or see you like that, because they expect that's like, oh, that's why, because she's or he's, they're Black. That's why, that's what's expected of them.
Right.
They judge us all the time. Same way Martine also said that when they come and see her face to face, you know how they said that the Black girls, we have that look. And once we show each other that look, it says a whole sentence. It must be in the DNA. The way Martine said, when they saw her, and she said, they're thinking I'm Black. Same thing with the first company I worked for out here, speaking to the clients. When they met me, the lady said to me, oh my God, I didn't know you were Black. And I said, and I got it real good. I said, well, there are some of us that are, proper and, it's not just,
Behave yourself, Sue. Go ahead, Mel.
But I was nice, right?
You were.
Sometimes, I'm sorry, one more thing, Mel. When it's like we can be attacked, but don't you dare try to attack back.
Right.
Even in a nice way. I am a rebel, but I like Nikki can tell you, I get judged more by my look than who I really am. So I think that's why a lot of people who maybe would like to try me don't. But that's not a good reason. But I'm just saying, like my last experience, I'll give it to you now. I had about 400 people in Fort Lauderdale, and my motor coaches were filling up quick, and there was an elderly couple, and the seats were all the way in the back. And I said, sir, if you wouldn't mind, I'm going to pull up another vehicle because I don't really want you guys to go all the way to the back. You can just, get the first seat. And he says to me, he puts his hand on my shoulder. He says, yeah, I know you know all about sitting in the back, huh?
Ooh.
And I said,
No, I do not.
well,
I'm sorry.
I said, okay. Woosah. I said, and I just smiled. And I said, no, I don't do that. Rosa Parks did that for us already.
Come on.
And I get to say, I know I look crazy doing it, right? Because I'm like, yeah, I don't do that. Rosa Parks did that for me already. And he just smiled, and I put him in the first two seats. So it's always something. It's always something.
That subtle racism. Yeah, that subtle racism. Yeah. So now we have social media, and with social media, we get things so quick, fast, and in a hurry, right? How are you parents dealing with stuff that come up so quick? And sometimes the kids see it before we do. So how are you all dealing with stuff like, my son showed me, George Floyd, and I actually thought this, I'm like, that's not real. That's a movie. But he saw it before I did. And so as parents, how do you deal with that when your children get a hold of these things before you do, before you get a time to process it and actually have that conversation with them?
Great question.
Sure.
Nikki?
Well, we share, Madison and I share. I kind of, at this moment, I think in this day and age, and it's kind of sad for me to say, I really don't have a control over that. It's either they're going to see it on the news, they're going to see it on social media, their friends are going to send it to them. You kind of have no control over that. But we share and we speak about these things. Why did this happen? She debates with me about a lot of things. We don't always see eye to eye on a lot of things as far as when it comes to justice as well. But we definitely share it, and I take in her opinion, which she feels, it's my way or the highway. I take her opinion and I push my opinion on her. I'm not gonna lie, I push my opinion on her and what I feel it should be. So I think it's just something in this day and age with social media that you're going to have to take it in and give explanations to the best of your ability with your kids.
But what allowed you to create this atmosphere where you can share? Because that's the most important part, right? Because she could have been seeing it at one point, you're seeing it, and that conversation, that meetup just never happened. And I think that's when it becomes dangerous, because she's processing it on her own or with her friends and with her own thing, and she never gets that guidance from you or an adult that's trusted. So how did you guys build this relationship, this open line of communication? As tough as it may be sometimes, how do you nurture that?
A lot of times, I'll come up to her with a I'll be like, oh, I'll tell her a situation that happened, and then she'll start ranting about how it's important to know your worth and stuff. And I listen to her wholeheartedly because I feel it's important for young kids to know about these things. And I feel like a lot of people aren't taught these things. I have friends, they're like, oh, I wish I had parents that would sit down and talk to me about these things. And I'm just like, I'm glad that she talked about these things, because it's just like, I'll try to explain it to my friends. I have a lot of friends and they don't know. And it just feels like I have to teach them what their parents aren't teaching them. So I like to listen to what she has to say, and we'll talk about, oh, did you see this? Did you see that? Yeah.
Good job. Martine. How do you process? And because I know your house is tech savvy, so how do you process and how are you having these conversations?
Well, as tech savvy as we are, and yes, it's true. The kids do hate it. Everything is under control, if you will, and there's time periods and all of that. But you can't stop social media from happening. They're going to see it. So, and I'm very well aware of that. There are a lot of things that Maya would come and tell me and say, Mom, did you hear about this? And I said, well, that can't be right. I haven't seen it in the news yet. And then I'm watching the news, maybe later on or maybe the next. I'm like, Maya, wait a minute. You know what? What you told me yesterday, now I'm seeing it in the news. So it's happening so quickly, as someone said. Social media, some people now, sometimes they just rely on social media for their news. But I think going back to, as far as a conversation, we do have an open line of communication where I think she's very comfortable in telling me things. Sometimes I say, sweetie, you're telling me too. You're telling mommy a lot now.
TMI, too much information.
Too much information. But you know what? I think the most important thing is to listen and just listen and be there for them and not to try as best as we can, even though we're parents, not to be too judgmental, if you will. And even if they're telling you something that you may not necessarily agree with right away, not to jump on it, just to listen and slowly guide and say, well, this is kind of where I'm looking at it. And that has been something that I've constantly worked on, is that if she's telling me a story and she says, okay, Mom, I have to talk to you. I have to talk to you. That I make the time to go, okay. Yes, you do.
No,
and you say, okay, so let's go ahead, we'll talk and we'll have that conversation. If she sees it, and she'll come and say, did you see this? What's going on? Because again, you can't hide, we can't protect them from it. We just can't. In this day and age, the world that we're living in, they're going to see it, either it's on their device or on their friends are talking about it. And I think if there's any kind of an issue, and I'm not even just talking about things dealing with racism, if there's anything, I'd rather have the question come to me and for us to be able to have that conversation than to have to go to a friend, because you know what, you were afraid to come to mom to have that conversation. So we try to keep it as open as we can.
So I know we got about 10 or 15 minutes left, and I really want to get to the fears part of things. So I'm going to ask Madison, I'm going to ask the young people first. Give me one thing that you're fearful of as a young Black woman. Think about it. What's one thing? So I'm going to start with Madison. Kelly, Cyan, you're next. And Maya, as much as you don't like to talk, you're next. Think about one thing that scares you, that you're worried about. What's one thing as a young Black woman? And I'm going to ask each of the mothers to answer that same question. What's your fear for your daughter? And then I'm going to let Melanie really wrap it up with the whole, it's a great thing to have a praying mother, a praying grandmother, and let Mel really get into that for the last 5 or 10 minutes that we have. So keep it short. What's one thing that you're fearful about?
I'm fearful that there's really no one for us, all in all. I just feel like, because there's Black men and they're not even for us. A lot of Black men are not for us. And then it's like part of our race is against us as Black women.
Okay. I told you, Nikki. Go Kelly, Cyan, your turn. What are you fearful of? You just graduated high school a couple of weeks ago. That means you're about to embark on being a college student. What are you fearful of as a young Black woman?
I'm fearful of not being successful sometimes, because it's kind of hard for us to make it.
Speak up a little.
It's hard for us Black people to make it out here sometimes, because the white people are mostly taking up over everything. Schools, areas, locations. I'm just really scared of not being successful, not making my mom proud.
Aw, that touches. When somebody says, I'm fearful of not succeeding and not making my mom proud. Maya?
We need you, Maya.
Maya. Come on, Maya, you got to take one for the team. The girls are doing great. They need one more.
Not being able to achieve the goals that I know I can.
Come on with it. What are some of those goals?
Like going into professional jobs that when they see your when they see our skin, it automatically gives us we don't get an extra point for that versus a white person, they do. So in the application, if they see that you're black, and if they see that you're black and you may be intelligent and you can do all these things and you have multiple talents versus the white person that is not as smart as you, but they're white, they would most likely get the job than you.
Preach.
Wow. Ow. Wow. Y'all had some deep ones. So Martine, we're going to go the same direction. Keep it short. What's your greatest fear for your daughter as a young Black woman?
You know, my greatest fear is I think about the world as it is today and what it's going to look like as she gets older and then eventually for her children. And in spite of that, I still want to say that I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful in the sense of the young people are giving me hope. The young people are giving me hope because in spite of the fear that I have that she'll be judged by the color of her skin as opposed to, you know, her character and what she can really do, and in spite of everything that's happening in the country today, from what I have seen, even with these protests, with everything that's happening, there are a lot of young kids out there, and there are a lot of young kids from all races, from all backgrounds that are saying that, you know, that are supporting us, that are saying Black Lives Matter. So I try as best as I can to kind of push to balance out that fear with that hope that a lot of these young people, they are seeing it. They do see that there is a change that is needed and there are future. So I'm counting on them. I'm counting on you.
Good job.
Counting on you guys.
Nikki?
I think my fear more so is for the implicit and unconscious biases that are put upon our kids. And it's heartening, it's disheartening. You know, it's like when you bring your kids into this world, you don't ever think, first off, you know, when they're babies, that you're going to have to, you know, fight for them and fight for them to be in a place that they're American. You know, forget about just being American, but fight for them to be treated as equal. You know, you don't think about that. However, I did when I named them. I was like, well, you know what? I'm going to make sure that they have names that you can't prejudge when you see that resume. I did, honestly. You know, that was one thing that I really did think about. However, you know, there are these implicit biases, and I think everyone has them. Everyone has them, even us as you know, Black and brown people. We have them. So, you know, it's something that you're fearful that they just may come about that one person who has this bias that they just can't get over, and how it may stop them from succeeding. You know, how many hurdles do they have to really jump to reach where they need to be, although they have the potential to be there 10 times over. So that's one of my biggest fears for my daughter.
Thank you. Thank you. Sue?
My biggest fear has always been, and I talk to them about it too, is that one day they won't love the skin they're in.
Oh.
Color. Because not one of my daughters are my complexion. They're all lighter than me. But with that being said, it's still, our young daughters are bleaching their skins, you know, and being teased and not loving it, not loving being Black. But that's my biggest fear, that one day, especially my youngest, would say, I need a bleach. I don't love the color. This color is not in style. Everyone else is doing it. That's why I try my best to drill in their minds that this is the badge of honor, our color. So I need you to love the skin that you're in, and let's move forward. That's my biggest fear, because that's all I see is the young girls. Today I see you this color. 3 weeks later, I see like 15 shades lighter. It's a self-hate. It's a self-hate. I don't want them to hate. This is a badge of, this is an honor to have this color. You know what I mean? So that's my biggest fear. I don't want my daughters to hate the skin that they're in. That's my biggest fear.
Mel? Wow.
The funny thing is, right, so the white folks are getting suntans to get our skin tone, and we are trying to get their skin tone. But, you know, I just want our young women to know that, like I said, you're kissed by God every morning with that beautiful skin. You have that skin for a reason. It's beautiful and others want it, you know. The media will definitely get a hold of your brain and try to make you feel like you're ugly, you're this, you're that, when they know all the time that they want to be you because you're beautiful. You know, and I just wanted to get that into the young ladies. There are a lot of fairs. Shirley, I don't know if you want me to go into, or did you have something else? Yeah.
No,
Okay.
go right
There are a lot
ahead.
of
Go
fairs.
right ahead. Because we have about, we're going to close out in about 5 to 10 minutes. So yes, go right
Okay.
ahead. Because I really want for each of the families, the mom and daughters, to kind of, what's a parting message that you want to tell a mom and your daughter after Melanie does her part?
Okay, and so what I want to say is fear to me is the false enemy appearing to be real. Don't allow that false enemy to try and appear to be real. It's not real. So let's knock fear down. And I know being a mom can be physically and emotionally exhausting. Just when you think you can't take another minute, something else comes along that requires your energy and effort. But the good news and the truth is that you can find rest in the Lord. It says, come to me, all who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Okay, prayer changes things. You know, back in the day, I know we had, I don't know if any of you all still have grandmothers, but mine sure was a praying grandmother that got us through a lot of times, you know, a lot of hard times, a lot of difficult times. And when I look back on the stories that they've told me, they had some really difficult times to get through, you know, and I know if prayer could get them through that, I know that prayer still works. You know, in times, moms, you may feel anxious. You know, we worry. It comes with the territory, especially in times like these when our children goes out the door. It can make us anxious. But Philippians 4:6 said, do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation, by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, present your requests to God. And trust me, he will see you through. So I leave you with this. Just be patient. Wait for the Lord. Be strong and take heart and wait that the Lord will answer your prayer. Prayer changes things. You ladies have wisdom. And, you know, the young lady said that she is teaching her peers. So that means that you moms are doing great things and you know, really imparting all of these wonderful wisdom into your children. And I'm just so happy to see, you know, and I've always known that Black moms, we got it. You know, we can take nothing and make it into something. We are special, you know, with the little that we have. So I know that it's a gift from God. The James 1:5 said, if any of you lack wisdom, those of you that may feel like you don't have it, you just gotta ask. Simple and easy. Who gives generously to all without finding fault, and it will be given to you. So just keep praying and asking God to open your minds, your heart, and your soul to give you more wisdom, because we need that in today's world to deal with this situation that we encounter. And it changes all the time. It changes. Things that were happening back then is not happening now. But the greatest device that I think that was developed was technology. Man, it makes us see everything out front, you know? And I thank God for that, because God gave somebody the wisdom to do that. So yeah, let's continue to pray and pray for our children. And young ladies, you also need to pray. God does answer prayers, especially young people.
Thank you, Melanie. And the reason that this was important, the prayer part, is because I grew up. So my mom is a prayer warrior. But I grew up, look at me here. I grew up always hearing that, you know, even some of our R&B rappers, right? Some of our artists, one of the very first things when they started talking about their mom, the very first thing it said is, I'm here but for the prayer of my mom, right? I had a praying mother. I had a praying grandmothers. And a lot of times we hear that even in rap music. So I really wanted to talk about that and the value of prayer, because when we know nothing else to do, regardless of who you pray, regardless of your religion, you know that you can turn and say a prayer, right? We all know our Father who art in heaven. We all know Psalm 23. So I guess tonight And I'm hearing it so many times from all these women, how exhausted they are, having to be home and doing double duty as a result of COVID, the work, the school work, the child work. And we're exhausted and we're tired, but our girls are looking up to us and our girls are desiring so much from us and wanting to be more like us. I really wanted, before we close out, I really wanted for Melanie to speak to that. And as I warned you guys, I'm gonna go right back around. We got 3 minutes. What's a parting word that you want to give to a mother who may be listening, whether she's sitting with her daughter or she has a son? What's just a parting word of encouragement that you want to give to a mom in this difficult time? You know, as we try to make it, looking at Black dads, looking at Black moms, looking at these times of injustice, and we're asking what next? And our kids are scared, what next? So let me start with Sue. What's a word of encouragement, Sue?
Stay strong in your faith and keep pushing. I am a very positive person. I'm not a Debbie Downer. It's hard, but you got to keep pushing. You have to try to stay motivated. It's hard. It might just get harder for us, but I would just say, just to stay in your faith, stay in prayer, and just, you know, everybody have their down times, but just keep the faith. It's like, that's what, my faith is what keeps me going all the time. Like, it's hard. I just can't stay down. Yeah.
Thank you. Nikki.
There's so many words. I think be open, willing to learn. That's my thing with everything that's going on today, and times are just changing so rapidly. Everything is changing so rapidly. Just be open to listen and hear what your kids are saying, what's going on. I'm not saying that you have to agree, but definitely definitely be open to listen. And I think that's the number one thing, because sometimes they feel like you're not listening. You hear everything, they feel like you're not listening, although you hear it. But just that's my number one thing.
Martine?
The one thing I'll say is that, especially in this world with this pandemic that has occurred, in a weird sense, I think it's brought us somewhat together from the standpoint that we are all experiencing the same thing in terms of we're stuck at home. Depending on how old our children are, we have to do double duty, whether, you know, people are still out there working and still have to now manage homeschooling with the kids, or you're working at home and you have to manage homeschooling with the kids. So the message that I would bring is that you're not alone. You are not alone. Many of us are going through the exact same things that you're going through. So with that, know that this is not about you. This is not something against you. There's nothing against you. This is something that is happening, and we are going to get through this. As it says, this too shall pass. Stay in prayer, keep the faith. You are not alone, and it shall pass.
Melanie? Thank you, Martine. Melanie, what's your closing words to?
They said that nothing is new under the sun. That means that there is a couple generations that have gone through this pandemic, right? So we will get through this. I want to say to the young girls that keep on building that relationship with your parents. Be open and listen to them. And moms, continue to listen to your daughters and make sure that that relationship stays intact. You know, God is able to do all that you ask him to do. Just ask.
Thank you. Wow. And as we close, I really want for everyone to know, this is about the family nucleus. I'm a firm believer that we can do whatever we can do outside of our homes, but as our own people, we need to start having some deep conversations with self, and we need to look at what can we do different. So I hope tonight empowered some parents to open the lines of communication. If you haven't opened them, you haven't established them, work on that. It doesn't happen overnight. You got to build it. You got to cultivate it. You got to work on it. There's sometimes they're going to work on your nerves, but it's definitely worth it. And to our young people, please see the value of your mother, the value of people who are pouring into you. I'm a firm believer, and I'm going to leave you guys with this: to whom much is given, much is expected, much is required. We are a blessed people. And we are only as blessed as we're willing to give out. We're only as blessed as we're willing to learn. So as we continue the series of looking at ourselves, looking at the family nucleus, whatever that nucleus looks like today, because it's so different for everyone, know that it does start at home, and know that whatever starts at home needs to end at home. We love you. We thank you for being a part. We hope you'll join us for another one. Mothers, Sue, Nikki, Martine, Melanie, thank you, thank you, thank you. And to my young people, Kelly, Cyan, Madison, even Maya, who came through towards the end. We love you guys. Thank you for adding your piece, and know that you will always have a voice here at U-Turn. We love you guys. Thank you. Please share the live, and ask people to watch it so that they too can be blessed. I'm a firm believer, each one teach one. Y'all have a good one. Have a good night.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.